Hey, what's going guys, and welcome back to my channel. Now in this video we'll be discussing about that how I get the mountain that you can see behind me. Now keep this in mind that this is completely procedural, meaning that it is completely versatile and you can change many things, like you can edit the variations, the resolution, the size, and this is created using geometry nodes. So this is going to get pretty interesting, but bear this in mind that this is the first part, and there will be total 3 parts on how I created the whole scene that you can see on your screen. Because I thought that if I just talked about all of these, all of the 3 things, which are the materials, the whole mountain model, which is procedural again, and the whole environment. If I discuss all of them in this video, it will get pretty lengthy, so I've decided to cut them off and divide them into 3 parts. So as this is the first part, we'll be discussing about the materials, and in the next part we'll be discussing about how we created the whole procedural system for the mountains using geometry nodes. And in the final part, which is the part number 3, we'll be discussing about the whole scene and the whole lighting, gobos, and everything like that. So without further ado, let's get started with the tutorial. So now going back to the Blender window, as you can see here, this is the material. Now before moving on, I just want to make things clear that I've just turned on the resolution. Yes, we can do that because it is completely procedural, so it looks a bit bad. I just did that so that my viewport is a bit light and not very heavy. But we'll definitely be increasing the details or the resolution of it in the final render. So now coming back to the materials, if you just go over here, yes. So let's say that what we have going on in the materials. So basically what we have is our 2 PBR textures, and what we are basically doing is combining them using a mask. So we have a rock texture, which is a PBR texture. As you can see here, we have displacement and everything going on. Next up we have a snow texture, which is also a PBR texture, but I didn't really add displacement to it as it doesn't really make sense for snow. And then we are combining it using a mix shader. Now before moving towards that, I just want to make things clear that I've switched this from UA to object, as it is much easier to handle, and it is much easier, and yes, it's just basically much more efficient. And in the image textures, I've changed it from flat to box, and I've set the blend value to 0.3 for all of the image textures. I just feel like that to be honest, that in the natural materials they add a bit more realism to it, and they look much better if we just keep it at flat. Basically it isn't going for example, if we just switch it to flat, as you can see here, it is just going over it. Like if I switch it for all of these, then you can see. But if we have set all of them to linear, to flat, then it will basically just project a 2D image like you would expect. But for the natural materials, it doesn't really make sense, and just the box value just fixes that. So basically, as I mentioned before, we are using a mask. We have connected it into mix shader, and then we have a mask going on. So basically what it is, a very simple node setup. We have a texture coordinate node with the normal values, which just gives us the normal values for the whole model, which also updates when if we change the model. So that's really great. And then we have separated the Z values, as you can see, and then when we just run it into the color ramp, it gives us a perfect mask to use for a snow and a rock texture, as it gives us a perfect and it gives us a perfect mask for the placement of the snow and the rock, which is very natural, and it gives us this result. Next up, let's discuss about some of the minor things. For example, the ambient occlusion that we have going on over here, and I've just basically run this through a color ramp. We have the ambient occlusion over here, and then if we just run it through a color ramp, I think this should be white. That is my bad. And yeah, as you can see here, this ambient occlusion is much more visible. You can even play with the color ramp values if you want, but I think that was looking pretty great. And as you can see here, this adds a bit more depth and a bit more shadows to the scene. Next up, we have run it through a mix shader, and we have set the B socket to black, or almost black. it is 363636. It has hex code, and then we have run it through a Procedural BSDF node, and it gives us this really nice looking results, and a bit more and the ambient occlusion adds a bit more depth and a bit more realism to it. Moving towards this thing, basically I've just added a bump and a normal map and mixed them together with a mix color node. I just think that if we just mix them together, it looks much better than using just the bump node. As you can see, if you just zoom in, we have these very minor details as well, which adds a lot of realism. Next up, we have the displacement. So we have used the same mask for the displacement. So basically we are telling Blender, hey, just use the displacement where there are rock areas and do not use the displacement where there are snow areas. So we have this mask and we have plugged this into the mix node. So it says, and we have also connected the displacement node. So it says to the Blender that this is the mask and only show and displace the displacement map onto the mask, and then it is gone through a displacement node and then the final result. As you can see here, it looks pretty great. If you just increase the resolution, it will look much better, as you can see in the final render. But just for the sake of Blender and my PC, I've turned it to a bit more lower value. So yeah guys, I guess that is pretty much it for this video, and in the next one we'll be discussing about that how we created the model of the procedural system for the mountains, and then in the last one we'll be discussing about the whole scene. So thanks for watching, and we'll meet in the next video. See ya.